All right, so these are the questions that I want us to think about. I don't know if you're writing them down somewhere. All right, number one, things we mark as we read. Mother has been keen in education. How can you tell? Kindly please mute so that we can communicate. Majdi's mother has been keen in education. Can I go on? Thank you. Majdi's mother has been keen on education. How can you tell? Number two. Sorry for that. Majdi's mother made sure he had a wife. Do you think children should have their spouses chosen for them by their parents? That's another topic that we should think about. Next, what new things shocked Samra when she arrived in London? Then, why were university students demonstrating, and is it right? Are there ways to solve issues without demonstration? Compare what Majdi and his wife are missing out on. What problems are faced by citizens in Majdi's country? What themes can you identify from the story? And then identify the aspects of style in the story missing out. So these are the things that we are going to consider. Go on with our discussion. Okay. So in the text, I hope somebody can also volunteer to help me read, but let me start as we normally do. So the text starts by, in the first term in college in London, Majdi wrote letters home announcing that he would not make it. And here he's talking about not making it in his studies. So he's threatening that he would give up, turn home, and Naomi, can you mute? To call him on his phone, his mother made several trips to the Central Post Office in Khartoum. I want us to note that the mother made several trips, not just one, because Majdi wanted to stop his studies. Then she sat for hours, again not, made several trips, sat for hours on the low wooden bench, fanning her face with the edge of her toque in the stifling heat. It was so hot wherever she is. But because of her desire for her son to study, she made several trips. And shooing away the barefooted children who passed by with loaded trays, trying to sell her chewing gum, hairpins, and matches. So even as she's going to meet her son, it's not easy because she's waiting to make a phone call, but there are people all around her, like in our towns, we normally see. You're walking in town, the hawkers want to sell everything they have to you. So in her case, it is barefooted children with loaded trays trying to sell her chewing gum, hairpins, and matches, maybe because she didn't look like she was chewing. And she says, "Get away from my face." She snapped at the girl who had edged by her side and was almost leaning on her lap. That is, they are selling them, and they are so determined that one girl is almost falling on her just to sell her chewing gum. And she is tough, so she sends her and tells her, "Get away." And the girl says, "Didn't I tell you?" No, he says, "Didn't I tell you I don't want your stuff?" She's very firm on what has brought her, which is to make a phone call. On the third day, she got through. Imagine, she's been trying to make a phone call for 3 days. And finally, on the third day, she gets to make the phone call. And that phone call is made in a cubicle. If you are living in Nairobi, those long ago, nowadays they've removed them. On our streets, we used to have a cubicle where you would get in to make your phone call. So she worked herself into a cubicle, but did not close the glass door behind her. Majdi's throat tightened when he heard her voice. In the cool corridor of the hostel, he held the receiver and leaned his head against the wall, hiding his face in the crook of his hand. So Majdi receives this phone call, and he's emotional as he's answering the phone call. So he does not want the other students in London to see him. These were students who passed by, walked a little bit quickly, feeling a little bit awkward, hearing his voice heavy with tears. They're wondering, why is this man crying? And his voice was heavy with tears, unnaturally loud. Maybe he was trying to argue with his mother. And the foreign words, they could not understand what he was saying. And so the book says the foreign words they could not understand were echoing and hanging around the walls. I want us to note the following. Number one, that the mother is persistent and very firm. Persistent. Those days, 3 days, she's waiting to make a phone call. And she is firm when she tells the student, didn't I tell you that I don't want that stuff? So if you're taking down notes, I want you to note those particular things, among other things that I'm also talking about. And then Majdi is emotional. He's emotional that he's talking so loudly. He's not realizing he's in a foreign country. And then he's very, very sensitive that people are watching him. And that is why he's hiding his face in the crook of his arm. Now we move on. So that styles that we see on this page are vivid description and then hyperbole, that the exaggeration, that the voice of his foreign words were hanging around the walls. That is, he's speaking so loudly that the writer says the words were just hanging. You pass by and you can still feel or hear his words. And then we realize, sorry for that, there is determination as a theme. There is love, the mother's love for her child. But then you can also ask questions because later on we realize, was it about love that she was making this phone call? And there's also fear. And who is afraid? Majdi is afraid. And the mother is also afraid to the extent that she must persevere to talk to her son and tell him, please don't return home. You must first go to school. I hope we are together so far.
Yes.
Now, good. Thank you, Sumaya. That response is really encouraging and I'd encourage us to do more of that. Now, these words that you can see here have just come from the text we have just read. And I want to ask us courageously, pick a word and tell us where we found it on the passage. What was it about? For example, let me give an example. You had the word voice. The word voice, if I remember from the passage, it is Majdi's voice that was so loud that his words were actually hanging on the words in the air or on the walls. Can somebody else, one or two, find a word on this word art and tell us what it reminds you of from the passage? And please don't be quiet on your teacher. You are normally not a very quiet class. You are a very good, active, successful class. So one person, yes, Sumaya?
Yeah, it shows when these people were trying to sell the chewing gum. They were really persistent. They were selling to Majdi's mother, although she didn't want. To the extent she told them, "Get away from my face."
Very good. And you can see the words, eh? We'll do this in class
Yes.
more, eh? Very good. Thank you, Sumaya. Who else wants to say something? Pick a word. Sumaya has used the word gum. I can see it there. Anybody else who wants to use a word? Bench. Who was seated on the bench?
Majdi's mother.
Majdi's mother. Very good. Who was in college?
Majdi.
Very good. So these words, they are basically to help us recall. If you can pick a word like Khartoum and you know where it's coming from, then it means you have understood the text. And remember, most of our tests or all our tests test our ability to remember the passage, the episode. Look at that word. There was a word hairpins. Who remembers where the word hairpins is used? Hairpins. Sumaya was very close when she said they were selling gums and hairpins to her. And you remember in this society, people used a lot of hairpins to hold their hair. And I'm sure we know people who use that a lot around us. So I will move on. Are we together so far?
Yes.
Thank you. Beautiful. Right. When you feel like you want to help us read, just let me know. I'll let you read because also time is moving. So there in Khartoum, she also in her own way could not understand what he was saying. So Majdi is trying to talk to the mother, but she cannot even understand what he's saying. All this talk about work being difficult was, of course, nonsense. She will not take it. That my son has gone to London and she is telling me he cannot read, that is nonsense. She recalls that flashback, this is a flashback, her son was brilliant. Her son always came top of his class. She had a newspaper photograph of him at 16 when he got one of the highest marks in the secondary school certificate, shaking the now disposed president's hand. And I remember in class we used that word very, very ably, very nicely. And when Majdi had scored those top marks, the father had slain a sheep in celebration and distributed the meat among the beggars that slept outside the nearby mosque. In other words, everybody was celebrating Majdi. His sister had thrown a party for him, headed with singing and dancing. Everybody was celebrating. I wonder, when you did your exam, how was it? Was there celebration? And even if people cried, at least in the house, maybe there was some celebration. And then the sister cycled a pot of burning incense over his head, made him step over it back and forth to ward off the envy and malice that was surely clocking him. She believed that somebody might be looking at him with bad eyes. So she is doing a ritual to ward off. And I'm sure in our society, we've seen people doing that. And what does that then make her? A character trait. You describe her as being what? A word to describe that character trait? Superstitious. Excellent. Superstitious. Now note these words are put in blue. 99% in the maths paper. She had said ecstatically, repeating to her friends and relations. You can imagine the attitude with which she was saying, my brother scored 99%. And then she repeats, 99%. And mind you, they took that extra mark from him just from sheer miserliness, just not to give him the full marks. Does that sound familiar sometimes? That is supposed to be humorous, people. You know, that one where you are saying, my brother is very bright. But you know what? Those people, they are evil. They are, the other word for miserly is, we had said it was what? What is that word? Is coming and going. And I don't want to say it in Kiswahili. Miserliness. They are mean. Yes. My brother should have scored 99%, but because the markers, KCS, you know, maybe it was a national body, they are mean. They just took that mark. Everybody is celebrating. And as a result of that, now you see these character traits coming out. The mother is still determined. You are telling me nonsense, my son. I took you to read, and when you are in high school, you scored very good marks. And everybody celebrated. You're telling me you want to come back to London? No, you're not coming back. And you remember how your sister threw a party, dancing, singing, and even made sure that there's no superstitious belief that will work against you. And you scored. You know, the mother is determined. She's practical. She's very practical. When she understands that her son is not doing well, she didn't keep quiet. She came on phone immediately and talked to him. That is being practical, not just thinking things will work out on their own. But she's also prideful. My son must do well. And I believe if he did it then, he will do it again. And I insist. The father, of course, from here we can see that the father was grateful. He celebrated. He was appreciative. Because we don't have to celebrate, but that shows he's appreciative. And he was generous. Even the beggars who slept outside the mosque benefited because Majdi had done well in his exam. And the sister, she's kind. Of course, kind in terms of throwing a party. But that party could also be, from what we see, she's throwing it so that people can see her brother. We've said she's superstitious. She's also determined. She must convince people. man, my brother scored 99%, and it is because, and then, of course, prideful. The styles we see there, and if you see a style that I've not mentioned, please also feel free to share it. There's repetition, which I've highlighted. There is vivid description. As I read this, I actually saw myself in Maggie's party. I saw the beggars receiving their meat. I saw the sister dancing and going around, and I can imagine how, Kina Sumaya, the way you people normally dance, I could actually see that dance. Okay, and there's a lot more. And then we have the theme of education. We have family unity, the family is uniting, and then superstition. And of course, any other that you can see there, there's the superstition, yes, because this is more superstition than religion. Is there anything I'm missing out you want to add?
Teacher, you said there is flashback when Majdi's mother recalls how Majdi used to pass well at the primary.
Yes, yes. Yes, there is. Remember, when this scene is... Yes, continue.
I was just saying that there's flashback when Majdi's mother recalls how Majdi used to pass well, get high marks in the secondary school certificate.
Very true. And remember, this is a flashback because she is thinking of all this as she's seated, as she's making the telephone call. She's been waiting for 3 days. So now she's making the telephone call and she's thinking, I am not giving up. Then she goes into this flashback. Any other comment before I move to the next slide? Okay. Right. Here again, I'm not sure we'll do this because time is really moving. But again, from this word art, if you can pick one word, like I picked the word 90. I know that 90 reminds me of the sister saying 99%. My brother passed his exams. When I look at the word 16, it reminds me that the brother was 16 when he did his exam. Can I give a chance for maybe somebody to say one word that you can pick and what it reminds you of?
Sure, you can pick brilliant.
Yes.
To remember the mother recalling how his son, brilliant, how clever he was at the secondary school.
Excellent, excellent. Can somebody remember why the word nonsense has been used? Nonsense.
Her mother could not agree with the mother. Okay, not really agreeing, but then to her, she seemed to say that the work being difficult, it was like just like a nonsense.
Exactly. Excellent, Sumaya. Thank you. Co-teacher, I'm sure some are still warming up. I wonder who Huawei 620 is. If I were to add marks because of this, it would be nice to have your name, so that in case we are saying this is, and of course I know there are people who are not here for one reason or another, but you never know where this might help in the future. So it's just good to have your name. Okay, the sister was singing. And I find this word art really, really helpful in causing my mind to remember what was said, like the meat that was eaten by everybody. Okay, I'm moving on. If somebody has a question, always feel free. And who is still here? Anybody who can check the charts and there's something somebody has typed, just alert me so that I can respond to the question. Does somebody feel like reading for us? Or I go ahead and read? Somebody feels like reading? And you can also read from your textbook, by the way. There's one chat. Somebody can check what it is. Right. Take this thought of giving up out of your mind, she said to him on the long distance line. I know, Sumaya, the next one I'll allow you to read. Can't you understand I failed my qualifying exam? The word failed was heavy on his tongue. The exam I needed to be able to register for PhD, showing that he's very disappointed. And here's the question I want to ask us. How do we handle failure when it comes our way? How do we handle failure? So sit it again, she insisted. You will pass, inshallah, and then come home for the summer. I myself will pay for the ticket. Look at the mother. Don't worry. In other words, son, you are going to do that exam. Of course, God willing. And then you'll come home. And don't worry, I will pay for the ticket. She had independent means, that woman. And when she put the phone down, a project started brewing in her mind. In other words, recall, when the son called and said, Mom, I'm coming home. I am not able to do my exam. The first thing she did was, I must call him. So for 3 days, she sat waiting for her turn to call. Then finally, she calls him and she's telling him, you are going to do that exam. And if you want to come home, don't worry. Sit the exam. I will pay for your ticket to come home. Immediately, she puts the phone down. This practical woman, a project started brewing in her mind. She dawdled on her way home, plotting and wishing. And I want you to write down the word dawdled, and maybe somebody can share with us what it means. Plotting and wishing. A few hours later, refreshed from her siesta, very practical. When she went home, she was very tired. So she decided, let me take a little sleep, siesta, 10 minutes sleep, 30 minutes sleep. And then after that, take a cup of tea with milk. She always had at sunset. After that, she gathered the family and launched new campaign. Look at that exaggeration. That is also a style. Launched a campaign. Campaign, my son must stay in London. And here is how she puts it. My poor son, all alone in London, needs a wife. Look at the choice of words. If she had told the family, probably, your brother, your son needs to be in London, nobody would have maybe paid attention. But she is tactical. She chooses her words carefully. My poor son, all alone in London, needs a wife. And that's how Majdi came to marry Samra. After banging his head against the books, working the proofs against and again and copying curvaceous lambdas, gammas, and sigmas from the blackboard. By the way, I found out that these are things that are learned in topology. And I was Googling to find out what topology is. So these are words that some of you will learn when you're doing geometry, things like that. And then, and into the whirling mass of his dreams, he was ready to sit for his qualifying exams. Look at how the mother's determination and the mother's push and the mother's wisdom caused Majdi to refocus. And finally, he sat for his qualifying in exams. And in June, he flew to Khartoum. Remember, the mother had promised to send him a ticket. She must have. And in July, he received the good news that he had passed. And by the end of summer, he was returning to London, accompanied by his new bride. What is the name of his new bride? Somebody? Welcome, Casey. Majdi. Majdi's new bride is called? Shamra. Yeah. Shamra. Thank you. Now, look at the mother. Can somebody see what I have written under the mother? To read for us what I've written under the mother. Just unmute. Okay. Determined. Please go ahead. Determined, yes.
I'll read.
Yes, Randy.
The mother is determined, religious, encouraging, practical, and I can't say the word.
Proactive.
Proactive.
You know what proactive means?
No.
It means when you see a problem, you don't wait for somebody else to do something about it. You take action. And this is exactly what the mother did. She took action. And from the beginning, we've been talking about the action that she took. Who else can read what I've written under Majdi? His character trait that come out from here. And please don't feel shy that you're reading too much. I'm already talking myself too much. So just for us to keep going, just go on. And please go ahead. Oh, I had a voice. Oh, network issues, network issues.
Fearful, determined.
Thank you,
Fearful, determined,
and
working.
hardworking. Thank you for that. And I think I already explained why we said that. And then I've talked about, in summary, we see dialogue as a style coming out between the mother and the son, and the mother cannot believe. She's saying, you are not going to give up. Take that out of your mind. And he's saying, I failed my exams. And he says, no, sit it again. That's the dialogue. And there's use of local dialect. I think the word inshallah. What does inshallah mean?
God willing.
God willing.
My God, yes.
By God willing. That is use of local dialect. And there's, of course, vivid description. Vivid description. The mother dwaddling. Did somebody find out what the word dwaddle is? To dwaddle. Instead of them saying the mother. Walk without. Oh, somebody's checking from the dictionary. When you get it, please let us know. I really appreciate your participation, good people. May God bless our team success. That is what I will keep calling our class. Team success.
Success.
Yes, that's who we are. It's our nature, by the grace of God, inshallah. Okay, the themes. Determination. The spelling of determination is wrong. I'll correct that. There is fear, but that fear is removed when the mother pushes him. And finally, education as a theme. And he learned these hard things. And so I want to encourage each one of us, no matter, I know this is a physics class, this is a chemistry class. No matter how difficult the lambdas and the gammas and the sigmas are, please do what this man did. Work hard, day and night. And finally, he goes home, returns, having qualified, and also he has a new bride. Here is a mind map. I'm sure you have, let me just take a break for 2 minutes. Please draw in your book. Draw in your book. We've talked about them, and this is part of the revision. I hope you have your book. Draw this mind map. You may not draw it as what I've done, but from this, I want you to write Majdi in the middle, and from Majdi, write a character trait, write a theme that has come out from what we have just read, and from the mind map, we came to know about Majdi's mother. So from Majdi's mother, I want you to also write down a character trait, just something as we take a break. Maria, welcome. Can we do that for a few minutes? See the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Kindly do that. And then we just share. That is just basically to help us revise so far where we've read. And I can see we are 12 participants. That is very good. Are we writing? Are we writing something?
Yes.
Good. By the way, is it cold where you are? State House Girls is freezing. You can see I'm in a coat. It's cold. So these are called mind maps. And maybe I'd give us a chance, 1 minute, to go back, just so that you can see. Though I hope you have your book with you. This is where you're getting what you're writing from. This from religious, determined, encouraging, practical. But this is for revision. Maria, you can mute. Let me mute her. Okay. Have we done something?
Yes. Yes.
So I can continue. Maria, please mute. Maria, please mute. Thank you. Okay, we move on. My screen is hanging. Okay, I have to redo the screen because it was hanging. I don't know why. Why is it hanging now? Stop sharing. Share screen. Next. Okay. So we move on. So all his life, all his life, Magdi had known Samra as a cousin. Please note every word that we are talking about here because we will recall it a little later. All his life, Majdi and Samra are now husband and wife. But Majdi had known Samra as a cousin of his sister's best friend. This must be some humor. A cousin of his sister's best friend. And the daughter of so-and-so. In other words, he didn't know her. There was no sudden meeting between them. No adolescence romance. There was no attraction when they were young. He had detached memories of her. This is what he could remember. A black and white photograph of her child squinting her eyes in the sun. This is how he remembers his wife. Okay? A black and white photograph of her as a child squinting her eyes in the sun, standing with his sister and others in front of a giraffe's cage at the zoo. He just recalls that he had seen her in a black and white photo at a giraffe's cage in a zoo. A teenager in a blue dress with her hair in a single braid, holding a tray of Pepsi bottle. Do you know what Pepsi is? Pepsi.
Is it a soda?
Yes, thank you. It is a soda. Like now we have Coca-Cola. We used to have Pepsi-Cola. Now it seems to be out of the market. Holding a tray of Pepsi-Cola bottles at a friend's engagement party. Yani, she was so far removed from him. And then he remembers the horrific story that had fascinated him in his childhood. Samra getting bitten by a stray dog and having to have 30 rabies injections in her stomach. Really? 30 rabies injections in her stomach. What I know currently is that, I hope you can hear me. It's telling me my connection is unstable. Now, normally in these days, when somebody is bitten by a dog, they get at least 5 injections. And I don't think those injections are given in the stomach. I'm not very sure about that. Maybe somebody needs to research. But that is how Majdi remembers Samra. I hope you remember those words. Now, here is the memories. What memories does Majdi have of Samra? I'd like somebody to unmute and just read for us what you can see. And put it in a full sentence. Try and read it by putting it in a sentence. He remembers her, something like that. Yes, can we have a few of us do that?
Lutfin.
Yes, go ahead.
Majid remembers Samra as a daughter of so-and-so. He also remembers Samra holding a tray of Pepsi bottles at a friend's engagement party. And also remembers Samra as a teenager in a blue dress with her hair in a single braid.
In other words, uncomplicated.
Yes. He also remembers the cousins of Samra's sister's best friend. And yeah.
Yes, one more.
And he also remembers Samra getting bitten by a stray dog and having to have 30 rabies injections in her stomach.
Good. Now, all these memories are what are referred to as detached memories. Detached memories. I'm moving on. Time flies. Okay. Does somebody now feel they can read for us? That's not good English. Does somebody feel like she can read for us? What happened in 1985? I'm waiting. Sumaya, go ahead.
In 1985, he had in 1985 he had seen her through grapevines behind a carpet over which the leaves climbed and weaved a crisscross maze. He was pressing the doorbell of a house near the university on one of the smaller side roads which housed the university staff. On the main road, the students were demonstrating.
Just go on.
On the main road, the students were demonstrating against the proposed execution of an opposition party leader. While they were marching for justice, Marjorie was searching for Professor Sain, lecturer in topology, to beg for a reference letter. It was for one of those numerous grants to do postgraduate research that he was always chasing. From where he was, he could hear the shoutings. It came to him in waves, rising and falling, rhythmic and melodious. He could not make out the exact words.
Thank you, Sumaya. Thank you. So in 1985, he had seen her. Remember, he had very detached memories of her. But somewhere in 1985, he had seen her, not, you know, the way now you are, because my photo, my camera is on, you can see me. But he saw her, there was grapevines. Grapevines grow like, like our fences, behind a carport where there were leaves. So in other words, he was not even seeing her very well. She was hidden by those leaves, crisscrossing within a maze. Yani hakuwa anamwona vizuri. Like this, there are things that he could see her. They are still trying to tell her how he had never met her. And as he's seeing her within those things, he's not even directly concerned about her. He is pressing a doorbell. So I could imagine something demonstrated like this. You are seeing somebody, but your concentration is not there. He was concentrating more on getting his reference letter from Professor Singh, who was a lecturer in topology, which he actually ended up studying. Magdi was determined. He even went to the university quarter staff to get a letter of reference. But at that particular time, what was Samra engaged in? Samra was engaged. She was not just a simple lady. She was also with some students demonstrating against the proposed. In those days, in Sudan and even in Kenya, we didn't have that. But in Sudan and those countries, we used to have that when the government does not agree with the opposition leader, they would execute them. They would cut off their head. So people are now protesting against proposed that the opposition leader was going to be executed. And apparently, Samra was among this team of people who were demonstrating. And that is how he saw her. And even when he saw her, from where he was, he could hear it as waves. They were very far. In other words, these people were nowhere near each other. And I believe the author is trying to create how people from distant lands, one is having fun in this area, the other is having fun in this area, and somehow they come together. Remember, the title is Missing Out. So even amongst us, we come from various places. Some of us may not even notice who is your classmate, but they are there always. So this is how these people were. He could not even remember the exact words they were chanting, but he knew, that girl I had seen as a teenager, I can see her. Yani hakuwa anamwona, in other words, clearly. So we see that Majdi is observant and is also determined. I've explained that. There is vivid description, clearly brought out, vivid description. I can actually picture it. And then there is fight for justice as a theme and education. I hope you've caught that. It is 11:51. We were to do 1 hour, but I don't know. Can we extend a little? With your permission, can we extend our lesson?
Yes.
Okay, we can. Because we've not even gone halfway. But I hope we are learning. Are we learning?
Yes.
Thank you. Very encouraging. Thank you. So remember, he could not even make out the exact words. Again, we'll not go through this. But if you look at this, the doorbell, for me, the doorbell reminds me that he was doing what? Sumaya, you just read it. What was he doing with the doorbell? Anybody?
He was Naomi.
Yes, Naomi. He was? Oh, we've lost some network. Okay.
He was busy.
Oh, sorry for that. Ooh. Yes, but the doorbell is where Majdi was pressing as he was looking for his lecturer. Crisscross. What was crisscrossed? Crisscross, who remembers crisscrossed? Okay, I hope some of you can take screenshot of this so that later you can use it to help you revise. As you look at these words, justice, who was fighting for justice? The students were fighting for justice, for the lecturer, for the opposition leader who was proposed to be executed. Research, you see the word research. Why is the word research there? He was looking for permission so that he could do his research. Please do take photos of that. Okay, good laughter. Okay, who wants to read that part? A courageous, successful team member. Please read for us that part.
Ludwig. Yes. They never let the students get very far. They never let them reach the marketplace where they would swell in numbers and cause a riot, where other grievances and older pains would join the cry against the injustice of that one death, and deprivation might shake off its hypnotic slumber and lash out in the monotonous heat of the day, down University Road until the first roundabout, and then the tear gas would blind them, send them running back, tumbling through the dust and the fallen banners on the ground.
Thank you. That's Anne. Thanks for the good reading also. They never let the students go far. Why? So that they would not meet, when we talk of where other grievances and older pains would join the cry against injustice, is they would never let the students meet the other adults in the street, so that they would fight against injustice. Injustice is a theme. It comes out as a theme. So they would beat the students, keep them, never reach the marketplace, where at the marketplace now we had older people who, if they reach that place, would join and say, no, we are refusing the death of somebody. We don't want anybody to die. And so what that the privation, depriving them of meeting those people, would cause them at the end of the day, the heat falling on them, a hard day. They've been marching, and the heat of Sudan seems to be a lot from the description in this text. They would actually give up. And then in the process, as the students are going around the university roundabout, and this almost sounds like our university down here, they would throw tear gas on them. I remember one time when the university down here went on strike, they threw tear gas. That tear gas reached our school, and all of us were rubbing our eyes. So you can imagine what these students must have been feeling as they are fighting for justice. So when you look or you think of Samra, she then doesn't look like a weak person. She looks like she knows what she wants in life, except what she wants is different from Majdi's wants. I've noted, and now I'm moving very fast, that the government is oppressive. That brings out the theme. The government is unjust, bringing out injustice, and the students are deprived, meaning bringing out deprivation. To deprive is to deny somebody what they would have to help them survive. Okay? Again, please, if you can take a screenshot of the same. Is anybody taking a screenshot or a photo of this?
Yes.
Good. Please use them to help you revise. So when you see the word grievances, you know that is the students who had their grievances and they were not allowed to go and tell the older people. Now, just one secret. How is it possible that I'm able to remember what I'm telling you? It's because when you read the book out loud to yourself, you hear yourself. And when you hear, and then you use your eyes, you're using actually two. You're hearing, and then you're reading, your mind tends to have better memory than when you're just reading without looking at something else. So try that one out. You see the word rioting. Who was rioting? The students, okay? Who was being blind? Who was made blind by the students, by the tear gas that was thrown on them. Wow. We are on slide 16 out of 49. Are we doing well so far?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen Damaris coming in. Thank you. Good. Can I read the next one or somebody wants to read for us? All right. As somebody is preparing to read, let me go in the interest of time. So she was crying. Who is crying? By the way, who is crying here? So that I know we are together.
Samra.
Good. So Samra was crying when she and her friend came running and stood underneath the carport of the house adjacent to the professor's. And this is where he saw her. Crying from the gas and laughing. She's crying and laughing. I tore my sandal and it's ruined. That's what she said. He had her say. She held it in her hand, the tears running in parentheses. Please, nowadays we don't use, how was it being said? Cascading down my chubby cheeks. No. We don't have chubby cheeks anymore in Form 4. Look at how this has been used. The tears were running in parentheses, down her dust-coated face. She has a lot of dust on her face, and the tears are making a line neatly. Vivid description. You can actually see this girl. And she's laughing. But then again, her eyes are full of whatever. I tore my sandal. It's ruined. Her tobe had fallen down. I'm not sure whether it's tobe or tobe. But whatever, this thing that they put across had fallen and collapsed around her face and her knees, and her hair had escaped the one braid it was tied to and sank out from her head into triangular spikes. Then all of a sudden, she is as untidy as can be the first time he saw her. Picture that. At the nape of her neck, tight little ringlets glistened with sweat, down, dark and sleek. She is sweaty. Picture her. Sweaty, and the sweat is actually, you can even see it along her neck. Laden with moisture, they lay undisturbed and appeared detached from everything else. The tear gas and the dust, the torn sandal, her fallen top. She is, in other words, a picture to look at. And I think you can picture her. Her hair everywhere. Her top down. Her sandal torn. Her face sweat and dusty. There was a Zia in front of the house, and he watched her lift the wooden cover. Yes, Damaris. There was fill the tin mug with water and began to wash her face. She smoothed her hair with water, searched through her hairpins with open pries with her teeth, and locked the wayward strands. I believe Damaris is trying to say something. Damaris, thank for your contribution of the arrows. I think you are enjoying the stories. So what did she do? She went, got some water, smoothed her hair with the water, and searched for the hairpins that were now somewhere stuck because she must have had long hair. And then she pricked open her teeth, put the pin the way we normally do, and locked back the strands where they are. Can we see that vivid description? Can you see Samra clearly at the back of your mind? I hope you can. So that brings out, thank you. That brings out vivid description. And when she said, I tore my sandal, that is monologue because nobody else is responding to what she has said. Then we can see that Majdi is observant, very, very observant. And this, whatever they're telling us, is being seen from his eyes. And then we can see oppression as a theme. Vivid description and monologue. Oh, and all the time she was crying, laughing, and sniffing. Picture that. Chatting with her friend as they both pull the end of their tops over their left shoulders, wrap the material neatly in place, and then over their hair. They cover themselves again. This sandal is so ruined. You can't even wear it as a slipper, her friend said to her. We have got that one now. Now, put this in the right order. This one I'll need to give you a few minutes. A few minutes to do this. Look at all this. We have read all this. Then put it in the right order from number 1, 2, 3. You can use your book to do that. And then after 2 minutes, let us see the right order in which it appears. Can you see it clearly? Okay. Kindly do that. I want us to do that to help me understand and to help us understand whether we have got the flow. Where do we start from? 2 minutes. As I take at least a glass of water, as you also take a glass of water. Okay. So somebody can arrange them for us? Hello, are we there or we all went for water? All right. We move on. We move on. I hope you got you got it well though. He felt cynical watching them, especially when, now that the demonstration was disbanded, other students passed by, cursing and spitting with torn shirts and the pathetic remnants of their banners. He did not have the anger to demonstrate. He did not have the ability to enjoy the thrill of rebellion. This is how different they are. Okay? And the next day, as he predicted, the futility of their action was exposed. As far as Mahdi was concerned, he never saw why people should protest in their country. Again, that is how it's very different from Samra. Samra felt that the change that should come should be in their country. But him, he felt, no, there can't be change in this country. Change will come when we go outside. So Mahmoud Mohammed Taha was hanged on a Friday morning. The opposition leader was actually hanged. And what the students did not pay much. And so we ask our question, we ask ourselves one of the questions I had posed. Are demonstration helpful? And if they are helpful, how better can they be done? But in this particular text, we realize that the man, Mohammed, was hanged in spite of the students protesting. But then this brings out the the theme of oppression from the government. Please note that. And then we see Majdi as being cynical. Being cynical, the book says, watching them, he's thinking, what you're doing is not going to pay anything. And look at him, he's the one who's thinking, the banners that they were using are pathetic. Yani kwa Kiswahili, madharau, ana madharau. And he's also critical. He's feeling, I don't feel like demonstrating. I don't even have the ability to enjoy what you're doing. So what you're doing is a waste of time. But I also said it's perceptive because he had already seen that no matter what these people do, the opposition leader would still be hanged, unfortunately. Okay, I'm moving on. Yeah, because of time. Shall I go on reading?
Yes.
Thank you, Reina. Later, or perhaps at the time he was looking at her through the vines, he thought, I could talk to her now. She would be approachable now, not formal or shy. She would yield to me now. Meaning that when he had first seen Samra, remember he saw her as a young girl who looked helpless, he was detached. But as time went by, he looks at her and she actually looks like, hey, this is a fighter. So he's wondering, can I approach her now? Would she yield to me now? And I believe that's what most probably young people experience nowadays. I'm told that the young men are shy to approach the girls because he wonders, can I approach her now? Amevaa sura ngumu. Is she formal? Like she'd be like, what do you want me to do? How can I help you? I don't know the people on this call. And over the years, we will talk of this day again and again and claim it was the start. They say that was the first time that they talked. But he let her go, rang the professor's bell, and soon heard footsteps coming towards him from the inside. So, seems he never talked to her after all because of the fear. It is pointless to resist fate, impossible to escape its meanderings. But who knows how to distinguish fate's pattern from a mid-white noise? He's saying that there was nothing he could have done that finally he would have to meet Samra. For him, it was fate. And so this rhetorical voice, the rhetorical speech that he's using here, question, shows that he could not have escaped this girl. No matter what he thought about her, no matter whether he thought she was unapproachable, no matter how he was detached from her at one point in their lives, they just had to meet. Years later, when his mother led her campaign, now it becomes her campaign, the name Samra cropped up. And please note what he thinks about that name Samra. For him, it is part of his topology studies. His older sister was dispatched to test the waters. So to find Samra, remember, up here he's saying, is she approachable? Would she yield to me now? Meaning there's some fear. So he probably would not have approached her on his own. So the sister, the mother being wise, sends his older sister to go and check. Can she talk to this girl and find out whether at some point we can have a relationship? And when the older sister goes, of course, now Majdi is living abroad. So they go with that idea that you can Samra marry a boy or a man who lives outside of our nation, Sudan? And look at what they said. Prospective brides living abroad, it didn't matter where, were in great demand. And so when Samra heard that she's going to be married to somebody who is living in London, she must have thought, even though we've never talked with him, maybe she saw him that time, it's not indicated. She saw him, but probably he was also distant. But because he's living abroad, it's okay, I'll marry her. I wonder, except for time, I keep saying, I would have asked us to discuss. Do you think it is good to marry a man who is living abroad than the one who lives in the country where you are? Maybe somebody can respond. I can see 8 chats. Is it okay? Or is it better you marry a Kenyan that you know who you live with around?
Teacher,
Yes.
I think it's better you marry someone who is from Kenya, someone you can relate to, than marry someone who's abroad and you don't even know the problems he's passing through. You just think it's fun because you're not in your country.
Wow, Wendy, it's like you already pointing out where the book is leading, eh? But the good thing is, halfway as we go on, I think the book also shows us whether people can try or not. After all, sometimes they say love is blind. I wonder how blind love is, but they say so. In short, Maji's mother, or Maji himself, he is observant. We've said he's observant. He's tactical. Tactical means he's finding the best way to approach the girl. He just doesn't want to go this way and then he shut down. So that is tact, meaning is tactical. The mother is proactive. We have talked about that. And she's also cautious. She does not want to be put off. So she sends the best foot forward, the older sister. And then we see there's use of repetition and rhetorical questions. Okay. When they walked into his room in London, they quarreled. Wendy, can you see this? 2 people from different backgrounds. They walk into his room in London, and what's the first thing they do?
They quarrel.
They quarreled. But this was not because the room was small or designed for one student. By the way, Samra doesn't seem to mind about material things. That is not what bothers her. Let's see what bothers her. He had applied for married students' accommodation, but the university had yet to allocate them a flat. So in Britain or in London, now we start to see the differences. The students are catered for, whereas those ones were rioting in the streets and tear gas is being thrown at them. These ones, even the married students, are being cared for. So the tension started up as soon as she stepped out of the bathroom. There were droplets of water on her hair and her arms, and the sleeves of her blouse rolled up. What question does she ask? Where is your prayer mat? She asked. What does that tell us about her? That she is? Her response?
Religion.
She is religious.
Religion.
Very good. And that makes religion a theme.
A theme.
Yes. And the fact that they quarreled, it brings out the theme of marital. Did I say marital? Marital conflict. Marital conflict as a theme. Now, the tension started up as soon, I've read that, sorry. I don't have one, Maji said. He was lying in bed enjoying his return to that particular quiet in London. So you can picture him like some of us probably are lying on our beds as you're listening. You're just relaxing. And then this lady comes and asks you, where is your prayer mat? And you're like, excuse me, I don't need a prayer mat here. This place is very quiet. Okay, the patch of moving gray sky he could see from the window. The swish of the cars on wet roads. Again, vivid description is really brought out. So this man is lying on his bed, enjoying the moving gray skies. Maybe it's just like the skies I'm seeing here outside here. And then the cars are sweeping because the roads are wet. And she's asking about a prayer mat. Now, if it was as if Khartoum had been grinding him to a perpetual hum, and now that humming sound was pleasantly absent. In other words, he was tired of being in Khartoum. Now look at those two sides that are now coming. He appreciates London because it's quiet. And for her, that is not even an issue. She wants to pray. Well, what do you use instead? She was already holding a towel. Where is the Qibla? Qibla. What's a Qibla? Sumaya?
The direction that we usually face when praying.
The one you put on the ground?
No, like a direction, like the way we face as we pray. So it's Mecca. So we face Mecca. So the Mecca is like the way we face, it's called Qibla.
Excellent. Now you even made it easier now for us to understand. And I saw that Damaris already drew directions, but I don't think these directions are leading us to Mecca in any way or anything. He would need to figure out the direction of the Kaaba. Kaaba is the temple. Is it the prayer temple?
Yes.
Ah, good. So from Britain, Mecca was southeast, of course, because Saudi Arabia was southeast. So in this particular room, which direction should she face? Where exactly was the southeast? Now, here is the thing. This man has moved to London, and he is actually losing the tradition, the practices that identified him with these people. He stopped praying, so he doesn't even know where he should pray, where he should be facing when they're praying. He does not even have the prayer mat. Please note those changes. Very, very important. What is he missing out on? That is the question. So in short, there's vivid description. There is contrast. Samra's life and Magdi's life are being contrasted. She believes they should pray. He doesn't even think it's important to pray. He doesn't have the mat to pray. He doesn't even know where to face when they are praying. Note that. And so that also brings out a religious conflict. Marital conflict, which is also having a religious conflict. I'm moving on to slide number 22. I can't believe it, she said. You've been here a whole year without praying? Yes, he had. And Fridays? What about the Friday prayers? By the way, today is Friday. I have a class. I have classes that day. You see how casual he is? Like, I'm not praying because I have classes. Look at the way he's changing. Look at the way modernity is taking over. Modernity is a theme. And then she says, miss them. All of a sudden, he sits up. Don't be stupid. Where do you think you are? Look at that response from this man who was crying that he didn't want to do studies, the man who originally wanted to come back home, but now has settled. He's now doing his PhD. And so he thinks that religion is stupid. I want you to look at how cynical he's coming out. And the quick hurt look on his face made him regret that he had called her stupid. He is not repenting or feeling bad that he's thinking religion is not important, but he's thinking he is repenting, if at all he's repenting, because she has been hurt. So deep down inside his heart, he has not changed. Modernity seems to be changing him. He took her in his arms and said, it's not as if I'm finding the course so easy that I can play truant. In other words, I can't miss classes because the course is hard. But in his heart, he's saying, young lady, you should come here. You should grow up. You should enjoy what we are doing. I hope you're getting how critical he is and how hypocritical he is. Hypocrisy comes out. She smiled and was keen to brush away her disappointment. You know, this lady is wise. Note how she does her things, very wise. So he suggested an outing and they went by bus to the central mosque. There he bought her a red prayer mat and a compass. Now it was called the Qibla, which pointed to the direction of Makkah. Thank you. She also picked up the booklet which listed the times of prayer. Each month was a page, the days in a row and the different prayer columns. You may want to discuss, but not right now. He is to make her survive, to make him have peace. He agrees to get her what she needs. Maybe that brings out a character trait, and somebody can probably share what that character trait is. He's not doing it because he believes it, but he's doing it for her. Is he doing it out of caring for her? Maybe he cares for her because we are saying, he doesn't care for her.
Maybe he doesn't want to, like, you've seen that some rushes, like, oh, we're not praying, like, kind of stubborn. Stubborn. So it's just much the one just to shut her up by fulfilling all what Samra wants.
Good. That is what we call critical thinking. We are critiquing. We are trying to find out why. But then again, he says a quick hurt look on her face. Maybe he cares that he doesn't want her to be hurt. But maybe, like you say, he doesn't want issues in the home. We move on. I'll just finish reading this part. Sitting next to him on the bus, she studied the booklet. The times change so much throughout the year. Because of the seasons, he explained. In the winter, the day is very short, and in the summer, it's very long. So in winter, I will be rushing to pray one prayer after the other. And in summer, there will be hours and hours between afternoon and sunset. She said, I, not we. Samra is wise. Look at that. I'm thinking Samra is wise, but that is now critical thinking. And he's very observant that she said, I, not we. In other words, she'll not be insisting. But later, her actions will have impact. And that seemed to make him seem proper and respectful. She would forge ahead on her own, whether he joined her or not. Remember, you said she was stubborn. He was relieved that this outing to the mosque had satisfied her. He's very observant, cheap and hassle-free. But then again, look at how he's thinking. Look at his thinking, how modernity is making him look at things. On a student budget, he could scarcely afford expensive restaurant or luxurious shopping trips. It was good that she was a simple Khartoum girl, neither demanding nor materialistic. So he's feeling he's now satisfied. Samra can now live with me in peace. She has a prayer mat. She has the timing. She has the prayers. Now I can continue living in London as I want. Let's move on. On what issues have Samra and Majid disagreed as they start to live as a couple? And how do they try to solve them? I'm not sure I really want to go back there because I've talked about them, but somebody can summarize. On what three issues have they disagreed on? We've mentioned them. One, just a quick summary. Religion, yes. And under religion, they've disagreed on?
On the prayer schedule.
Very good.
Yeah.
And where to pray? The mat.
Yeah.
And the direction.
Yes, and
the direction. And how has he sorted them out? Very quickly.
By providing her with everything that she wants.
Exactly. So here they are, the issues. Prayer mat, prayer time, takes her to buy a mat, prayer booklet, compass, conclusion. And he says, she's not demanding.